Hello friends, welcome to Helping Testers. So in this session we will be talking about config elements. So where you can find this config elements? So if I add a thread group, so inside this you will find these config elements. Now what are these config elements? We know what is samplers. So samplers are the actual working unit who actually performs an activity like hitting the website or connecting with the database. So it is doing that type of activity on which the API request we put load on. So actually we put load on these samplers actually, right? So what are config elements? So any of the configuration we want to do for the samplers is known as config elements, right? As the name suggests, it is a config, that is configuration. That is config elements. So let's start. So the first config element we'll be starting with is HTTPS, that is HTTP request defaults. Right. So let me add two threads here. HTTP request threads, first thread and second thread. So let me go to Google and visit a website, let's say JMeter Apache, our pet website which we have been using since a long time. So I will say this is JMeter home and this is our API, right? So the second API I want to hit is the license one, not the license one because the domain is changing. If I go to download release, okay, yes, so let me go to download release. So I will name JMeter download API, right? And this is my server name and this would be my domain, and the next is the path. As we have studied, path we copy and it comes under the path section. So currently I'm not using request default. Let me disable this and let me add a listener view result tree to check the result, and let me save this file also in videos and under this config elements, and I will name this as HTTP request default. And if I run this, so you can see both of the requests are going to Apache JMeter.org, and the second one is going Apache JMeter Apache.org is the domain and then the URL. Okay, now one thing you must see that what is common in both of these APIs. So the one thing which is common in both these API is this server name. So the common thing between them is this domain name. Now suppose if I have 20 APIs and 50 APIs I am hitting, so it's an unnecessary that I am, this slash should come here. So it is just a rework that I am writing this domain name again and again. Suppose if I have running or I was be connecting some server, then the IP would come and the port number here. If I have been hitting an HTTPS website, then I would have been writing here HTTPS because the default it is taking as HTTP. But if I was being hitting HTTPS, I should have write HTTPS here like this. So there is a amount of rework which I am doing again and again. So to help this, to reduce the amount of rework, we have this config element that is request default. That is, it adds some default values. So what I can do, I can just copy this domain name. Since the domain name for both the APIs is same, and I will copy in the default one. So we don't need anything here, as well as here we don't need anything. This default name would defaultly be used in all the APIs which are at its same level. You can add some another default values like protocol, port number, any path. You can add some body and parameter, and some you can advance settings like you can use Java for all the requests, and some proxy also if you want to have, or you want to put some default values. Now let's see, run this and let's see if it's working or not. So just a reminder, we are not using the domain name in these APIs because we have added them in our request default, HTTP request default config element. And let me run this. So you can see both requests are executed successfully. And if I see yes, it is going to this domain, and similarly the next API is going to this domain. That is, it's taking value from the HTTP request default. So this, now you must get a clear understanding what are these config elements. These config elements are helping to do configuration so your samplers, that is your request, can be hit. So these are some configuration elements, right? So that's all. That's for all in HTTP request defaults config element. A next configuration elements, that is rather we'll be studying about two configuration elements. Let me show you. So if I add a thread group, and inside this you will find HTTP cookie manager and HTTP cache manager. Let me add this so you can see that on it's not doing much thing on its own, right? So what are these used for? Let me give you an example. Suppose you are logging into your HTML account. So first you need to provide login access, that is your email ID and password. Once you are signed into account, you don't require email ID and password again. You are just navigating the different Gmail pages, your email box, but Gmail does not again prompt you for email and password. How come this is happening? This is happening because if your browser does not support cookies or caches, then what would be the actual scenario? That whenever you are visiting each and every page of Gmail, let's say, you have to give password again and again. But what this cache and cookies does, they stores, when you do login, they will store some of your information, maybe the tokens, authorization keys in your browser. So whenever you hit another Gmail request, maybe the inbox or draft, so the browser just add those tokens or authorization keys to the request. So by this, Gmail came to know, yes, it's a valid request. So you don't need to require the authorization keys. So similarly, let's say if we are here doing login with Gmail or doing some activities where we need cache or cookies. So in that case, we need to add these HTTP configuration elements. If we don't add this configuration elements, then our JMeter will throw an error, because these are the required elements. Whenever this API is hitting, they need some cache and cookie manager which can hold these requests, the authorization keys and tokens, whatever it is for the request. So you might find some cases, let's say where the login is required or something, you will find you won't able to hit this request, any request, HTTP request, maybe a login something. So what you can do, you can just add this cache and cookie manager and your scripts would be running fine. So there is no practical example because we won't be making such a huge request, but suppose we are working with Gmail or something, you will find this. If you want to just try out, you can just log in into your Gmail account and you can use this JMeter, We have already studied this BlazeMeter. So you can use this BlazeMeter to record a script. So once the JMX file is generated, just load it in your JMeter. You will see this cookie and cache manager already there. So this is how the cookie and cache manager works. So if I let's do a practical example of which we are talking about the Gmail one. So I will go to a Gmail account, and what I will be doing, I will be logging into my account. So we have studied this BlazeMeter, how we can record a script with BlazeMeters. So let us do the same. Let's start the recording, and let me navigate to my Gmail account. Right, so I will select my email, then the password, and I will click on next. So as I click on next, loading will start, and you can see the Gmail is loading here, and you can see that it has recorded around 33 scripts. Gmail is loaded and it has recorded around so many scripts, so many APIs. So let's pause this. Our script is generated. So let's pause this. Right, and you need to download the Gmx file. We have already seen how we can download a Gmx file. First you need to create your account, okay, and then you can download the Gmx file. And let me click on submit. Now it is downloading the Gmx file. So you can see it is downloaded with the name of passport scenario, because that was the defaultly name given when I was teaching the JMeter scenario. So I will replace this file and I will give the name as just a second. Let me rename this as cache underscore cookie, and let me open this JMX file inside my JMeter. Let me first work with new. I will delete this and I will upload my cache JMX in my JMeter. So you can see inside a thread group all the requests of Google have been recorded, and if I add a, let's say, view result tree, and if I run this, so you can see the scripts are getting passed. Now what I do will I will just disable these cookie and cache. You can see that they are defaultly recorded by the BlazeMeter. Let me disable this and run this now. So luckily they are working, but if you continue, yeah, you can see this is failing, and currently I hit it only the login one. If I have recorded some another scripts, let's say opening the email, a particular email, going to drafts, so in that case it needs the cache and cookie manager. So if I would have disabled them, more requests would started failing. In our case, only this request needs the cache and cookie, so that why it was failing. So JMeter needs the cache and cookie, and also this authorization manager. It also works the same way as cookie and cache manager. Authorization just manages your access for the, or you can say, the credentials for your website. So these cache, cookie, authorization, you don't need to do anything. You have to just configure them and they will work for you. So when you are doing any login or credential scenario, so it's a good practice. You have this cookie and cache manager, right? We'll be learning about a new configuration element. Let me show you what it is. If I go here under the config elements, you will find this element that is user defined variables. This configuration element is used to set your test data. Suppose you have some login scripts, or let's say some of the APIs for which test data is needed and which needs to be changed. For example, you want to log in with 5 users, or you need 5 different names for your APIs. So how you can handle this? So you can handle this using this user defined variables. As the name suggests, you can define some variables. So you can just click on add button here, and you can give here, let's say name 1 would be, value is webhub. I will add another name 2, and this name would be Rahul. Can add another, that is name 3. I will name it as Sanjeev. So similarly, and let me add a request, let's say a request 1. Okay, so I have defined these variables and I can use them. So here I can just, suppose I want to use the variable name, so I will write a dollar symbol and I can write the variable name 1. Similarly, if I want to use another request, let's say 2, that is request 2 is using variable 2, and so the request 3. Okay, and let me add a listener view result tree. Sorry, I mistakenly added the wrong listener. We want to add a listener, that is view result tree. And let us save this. Let us save this script under JMeter videos and in my config element, and I will save this as user defined variables. Now if I run this here, you can see I can get the access of all these variables. We have studied before that we can define some user defined variables. You can also find it under the test plan, this section user defined variables. You can do the similar activity here also. We have studied before. But what is the difference between this user variables and this is that whatever you apply at test plan level will be applied, those variables would be have access or would be accessed by all the thread groups. If I had another thread group here, so any variable which is declared at test plan level can be accessed by both of these thread group. However, any variable which is defined using this config element would have its access to this specific thread group, and this is really how the global variables are defined. At the global level, these scenarios are not defined, these type of variables are not defined. Suppose I need 5 usernames or 5 email IDs. These are always handled by the API level, that is the scenario level, that is the thread group. Now suppose we have some, let's say 5-6 variables we can store here, but what if let's say I need 100 names, so then I need to add 100 rows. So it's not a good suggestion. So normally these type of test data are stored in Excel file, or we can say the CSV file format. So JMeter provides a configuration element by which we can read the test data from the CSV files. So that we would be learning in this session, that how we can import a CSV file. So let me add new and let me create one CSV file in my this folder. So first of all, let me add a new Excel file. I will save this in a CSV format. So Excel file is opening. Okay, so now I need two variables. Let's say it's the first name and the last name. Okay, and let me put some test data. Let's say my first name is Vaibhav Gupta. I can write Sanjeev Kumar, Ted, John, I can write John Cena. Right, John Cena. So similarly, I can have a large test data of first name and last name. So, and let me save this in a format of, I want to save this file in this location only with a name that test data, and I'm giving the format at CSV, and let me save this file. So this file is saved. You can see this test data, and I will delete this. Now I need to now import this file in JMeter. So in JMeter I will have new script, and I will add a thread group, and inside a thread group I will add a config element that is known as CSV data set config. So this is our configuration element to read the CSV files. One more thing, I have done mistake. I think it's showing in Excel format and it has to be in CSV. So let me save this again. I did some mistake maybe. So the name is test data.csv, and inside of instead of Excel I have to select CSV format, right? Okay, so I can just use test data. Yes, I want to replace that file. Okay, yes. The features are not compatible with CSV. Do you want to keep the work in this format? No. Okay. Okay, so it's now CSV file. You can see comma separated values file, right? Now let me, so this is our configuration element, and first thing we need to do is this file name. We need to give the file name, that is the first the location and then the name of the file. So this is our location, and what's the file name? It's testdata.csv. testdata.csv. Okay, variable names. So my Excel file has two variable names. My Excel is, you can see the CSV file has two rows. So I want to fetch this data, that this first name data in first variable and all these data in second variable. So what I will do, I will mention here two variables, that is first and the second is last. Okay, and ignore first line. So yes, we need to ignore, because the first line actually does not have any data. It is actually the column name, right? So it is asking me that ignore first line, so I would say true. And you can leave everything as it is, and let me add a thread group, let's say a Java request. And what I will do, I will here use these two variables. So I would be using these two variables, that is the first and the last, in my Java request, or I will say request. And I would say the first, how I can use this variable. We know that we can use variable using the dollar symbol, and the braces, I will write the variable name first, and then the second variable name, or I will do this first, and so that I can easily represent. And the second is second variable name, what it is, I just forgot. So first and last, right? And this is last. So we are all set. This is an Excel file, CSV file, and so let's run this. Let me apply one load, and let me add view result tree, a listener, and let me save this file with the name of CSV data set config. Right, and let me execute this. So you can see here both the variables are printed, Vaibhav and Gupta. That is from this row, Vaibhav Gupta. We have, what we have done, we have, instead of writing the local test data, we are now getting the test data from the Excel. Now it is not reading the first row. The reason is we have selected here that ignore the first line. If I didn't ignore the first line, let's say I make it false, and I clear the old result and print it now. You can see it is reading the first name and last name. So JMeter guys, this CSV dataset has specifically given this option ignore first line, because usually in CSV files the column name is the name which represent what type of data it has. Now I have multiple datas. Now this, let's consider this is my login API, and it needs to do multiple logins with different datas. That this is a test case. So now how in this request I can work with different let's say different users, that is different test data. Let me just make it a loop of 2 here. Alright, and let me execute this now. Let me clear this and execute now. You see here that it is taking different set. For the first loop the data was Vaibhav Gupta, and for the second one it is booking the second value from this sheet. If I make it as 5, we have only 4 data set, and if I make it 5 and run this, you can see after 4 have completed till John Cena, it is again looping the test data. So you can have 100 of test data, and for one request you can apply that data. Now let's see how it will behave. I was having one user and it was looping it. Now suppose if I have 4 users, let's see how it is behave now. Let me run this. So it is behaving the same way. So what we get here is, using the CSV file we can save our data, test data, if we have a huge data, and when we can use it in our API, that test data. So whenever a thread comes, maybe by the loop or a new thread, it takes the next row from the CSV file, and once it reaches the end, it again start looping. So it's one of the very most important concept of JMeter, which many people don't know. User are coming that how we can store test data in a separate file. So this is how you can be learning about a new config element, that is config random element. So we'll find this random variable, and let me add 2 thread groups. First let me add one, that is we are learning with Java request. So this is my request 1. So random variable. So what you can do, you can give any value. Let's say the value should be between 5 and 10, and where you want to save this. So I want to save in a variable name number. Okay. And I want to print this here. So I can use a variable simply by putting this dollar symbol, and the variable name is number. So what I just did is I have said that to generate any random number between 5 and 10 and put it in a variable name number, and I am printing it here. Let me also add a listener view result tree. Yes, and also let me save this as, I'm showing you this saving every time because when you are searching, you know that what the name the scripts means saving, and the name is random variable config. That's right, and let's run. So you can see it's generated as 6 here. Let me run this again. 10, and if I'm running this, it print again 6 and 7. So it would always generate me a random number between 5 and 10. Okay, and let me run in a loop of 5. Just see here, it printed me 7, 6, 5, 5, 5. If I clear this, it printed me again another set of random variables, but different one. So it is picking up a random value between 5 and 10. Now, let's say I was having a test case and where I use this random variable. So it executed for some set of values and I found a bug. I gave it to the tester, the developer to fix it, but developer is not able to reproduce it when he's running the script, because in my case the random number was generated were giving an error in an API, but for the developer a different set of random number was generating, so it was working fine for him. So for helping the testers, JMeter has provided some seed value. What it is a number by which a random number is generated, that it would be unique always. If I say let's any number, I give 48, a random number, and if I run now, so it is 77658. Let me clear this and run it again. See, 77658, it would always be same because the random number algorithm by which it is generated depends upon the seed value. Since the seed value is constant, so the generation of the order of generation of random number would be constant. See, every time it is generating 77658. If I change this seed, let's say give me 2, and if I run this, it will give me different set, but it's 957. But if I keep this seed value as 2 only, then it would give me the same 95768. That is a number between the limit of 5 and 10 depending upon the seed value. So this seed value is very important. So when we are using random number, please use this seed value, because in that we are generating scripts which can easily be debugged. We can easily reproduce those scenarios again and again. You executed the script and it was working fine. When you again executed, it is failing, but you are never able to generate that scenario again because you are using the random number without using the seed value. Let's talk about another config element, and that is we have studied, yeah, this one, this should be good. Yes, the counter. So it is very simple. So what we can say, we have the loops, right? We studied in loops, if for loop. So this is the counter, which is you can say is a smart type of for loop. How? We can say from which value you need to start. Let's say I need to start from 1. Increment values, that let's say 3. Maximum value to go around till 40. And the variable I need to store in, let's say, is number. So if let me open notepad. So what would be the values I'm getting? The first one be 3. So the increment of 3, that is 4. 4 plus 3, 7, 10, 13, 16 and 19. Only till 19. Not exceeding 19, because the next one would be 21. Sorry, 22, and the maximum limit we have provided is 20. So 22 won't be accepted. So we would be having only these counters. Okay, so let's see. I add a sampler request to 1. Sorry for the mistake. Request 1, and how we can access the variable? Access name is number. And guys, these JMeter is highly case sensitive. So if it is a small n, then make sure you're using the small n. If you write a capital N, it would throw an error that no such variable found, maybe any kind of error like this. And let me add a listener view result tree, and let me save my test plan as counter config, and let's run. So you can see the first value is this. Let me put a loop of, let's say, 3 and see what are the values I'm getting. I will run this. 147. Yes, that is what I accepted. Now let's run for 6, or let's say 7, for the 7 loops, and then see what I am getting. See, we get the same values that expected. So 3, the 3 plus 4, so the 7 requests were executed. Now if I, let's say, enter 8 here, and if I run this, so you can see that when the 8th request comes, this counter is refreshed, that it is start from the beginning again. So that's the counter. You can describe the increment value here. It's not always that it's +1 or +2. You can add the increment value here and the maximum number, that till what limit you need to go. So that's all. That's all in the counter config element. Let's talk about a config element that is FTP request default. So if I have some FTP request, and let's say I have FTP request 1, I have another FTP request. So we have studied what are the FTP requests. So if we want to interact with file transfer, so we can use this. We have already studied this FTP sampler in our sampler section. We have taken an example and we have downloaded a file on our local drive from the FTP server. So the same thing is here. Now, as we have studied the HTTP request samplers, that in this you have to again write server name, remote file, and those stuff. So what you can do, you can add an FTP request default, and you can add the server IP and remote file, so that you don't need to write all that stuff again and again. So it's the default values from the FTP requests. So this does not do much of on its own. It just saving some common variables, and it is using during the request. So it is that there is nothing much in this FTP request. It is almost same as we have studied HTTP request default. Okay, so that's all.